Good morning, church. Pastor Ryan again here this morning with you. And I'm excited to talk today a little bit about some of the background in the stories that we're reading in Acts 1 and 2. And so in this video, I want to look specifically at the references to the Gospel of Luke. Because remember, Luke has written both the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts. And he even says in his opening in Acts chapter 1 that in my former book, I wrote and told you about all the things that Jesus began to do and to teach. And so that word began is important because what Luke wants you to see is the connection between the ministry of Jesus and the acts of Jesus in the Gospel of Luke, and now the continuing work of Jesus through the Holy Spirit and through the church. And so this is a continuous movement of Jesus followers, of Jesus believers, as we go through the book of Acts. And so Luke is a brilliant literary genius, and he's going to have subtle references and clues, and even similar words and phrasings back that he's going to use that he used in the Gospel of Luke. And so if you're really into reading the Bible and you want to read Luke and Acts together as we go through this series, then that's great too, and you'll start to see some of these connections. But a couple that I want to point out to you today, and you may find others, and let me know if you do, because it's really fun just to see some of these connections. Obviously, in the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke, the story starts in Jerusalem and it ends in Jerusalem. And so naturally, the second book, the book of Acts, would start in Jerusalem and the temple. And we see the disciples, after Jesus has ascended, going and worshiping in the temple and praying in the temple area. And they're in the city of Jerusalem waiting for the promise of the Holy Spirit. Jesus tells them in Acts 1, verse 7, that they are to wait for the Holy Spirit because they've been promised since the beginning of the Gospel of Luke that Jesus was going to baptize them in the Holy Spirit. And so let me read this for a second. I'm pulling this up. It says in verse 4 of Acts 1 that John baptized with water, but in a few days you'll be baptized with the Holy Spirit. So that's a reference all the way back to Luke 3:16, where John the Baptist at the beginning of Jesus' ministry tells them, hey, someone's coming, he's going to baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire. And so we see that culmination. You're going to see as Jesus ascends into heaven that there are two men that talk to the disciples who are looking up. And these two men, these two angels, we also see them show up in Luke 24:4 at, you got it, the empty tomb. They're going to be on the Mount of Olives where Jesus ascends, when he's enthroned as the king of the universe. And so there's location irony there because Jesus came into Jerusalem as king on the donkey on Palm Sunday from where? You got it, from the Mount of Olives. And so we come back to this location where now they see Jesus enthroned as the king of heaven and earth. But my favorite reference is that Jesus was eating with them. And so in Acts 1, it says that on one occasion, verse 4, while he was eating with them, he gave them this command. So one of Luke's favorite things is to talk about how Jesus is revealed and reveals himself to people during and through meals. And so there's a little hint here, just like the story of Emmaus when Jesus appears in Luke 23 to the two disciples. They recognize him when they break bread. And sure enough, in Acts 2, we see this reference that the disciples broke bread. And it was that breaking of bread, communion, the sharing of fellowship and meal where Jesus was present with them. And so as we prepare this Sunday to take communion, again, this isn't just a symbolic thing that we do just because. It's something that Jesus did and he commanded us to do. And he promised that when we do that, he is somehow in a unique way present with us. So those are just a few of the connections in Acts 1 and 2. There are others to the book of Luke. And so let me know if you can find some of them. But be thinking as we're reading, how is this connecting to the Gospel of Luke? How is what the early church and the Holy Spirit doing similar to the works of Jesus? Because that's the movement that is to be continued in the book of Acts. Happy reading.